Microsoft gave us some new Halo info, but what they're really doing is trying to shake up the PC gaming industry. Today, Microsoft penned a new blog post, and in this blog post was some information about Halo Infinite, but more importantly, how they're going to be changing their approach to the PC gaming industry. And I think there's some really profound information in here that aligns to some previous information that we've talked about. So, first things first, cross-play and cross progression are going to be coming to Halo Infinite multiplayer. Now, I think this was probably a given. Like, I think most people kind of expected this, but what this will allow you to do is if you're playing on your PC, playing on your console, and I'm assuming playing cloud gaming, you're going to be able to take your progression with you on every single platform. More importantly, if you have friends who are playing on PC and you are also playing on the console, you two will be able to play together. This is sort of a magic glue that Microsoft has. Yes, we've seen crossplay on other platforms between even different console generations and also different console manufacturers, but Microsoft, because they own the whole ecosystem from PC to console and even now cloud, it's really, I shouldn't say really easier, but it's significantly easier because there's less barriers in the way to bringing cloud progression with you. You got to remember, Microsoft has pretty much defaulted for a couple generations now, I believe, saving games to the cloud, which means moving them, portability becomes very, very easy, which is also why it was so easy to go from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series S or X generation. That being said, just know that integration is coming. And honestly, I would expect that type of integration to be more common, especially from all Xbox Game Studio titles that are going to land on both console and on PC. I don't know why they wouldn't make this functionality, as long as the game supports it. If it's just a single player game, then obviously multiplayer doesn't make sense, but being able to take those cloud saves with you between all the different platforms is going to be definitely a shining feature of the Xbox platform, if you will, or even the Xbox network, although Microsoft might cringe, but me calling that the now Xbox network. Other things that they announced is that the Halo Master Chief Collection has now been used by over 10 million players since its PC launch on Xbox Game Pass for PC. Now, that is a massive amount of people playing Halo, but the more important thing for Microsoft here, they said the vast majority of them being brand new to the franchise, meaning that by putting this title on to that platform, they're getting new eyeballs and new people into the Halo franchise, which should honestly help Halo Infinite when it does come out, because now they didn't give us how many of those 10 million players, but let's just say 7 million, making a number up, but we know it's reasonably accurate. They now have 7 more people who may be interested in Halo Infinite who may previously not, because they have played earlier games and understand the story and the plot and everything else that is going on. So that is another minor win for Microsoft on that journey. But the big news coming out of this blog post is Microsoft says, starting on August 1st, the developer share of the Microsoft Store PC game sales net revenue will increase to 88% from 70%. Now, what that means is Microsoft is reducing their 30%, what I call a store tax, and dropping it down to 12%. Typically, most developers or app stores charge a 30% royalty or cut for every sale. So if you sell $100, the store gets 30% or $30, and the game developer gets $70. Microsoft is reducing that down to 12%. This is going to put more pressure on other developers or other game platforms like Steam as an example. Now, why might Microsoft be doing this? Well, it's pretty obvious. We know that the Xbox Store or the Windows Store where you can go buy games on the PC is just not nearly as good or as robust as Steam. Steam definitely is the de facto, the house on the hill, the shining pillar of the gaming industry where most people play their games. In fact, Microsoft knows this because that's why they put all their games onto Steam, or at least most of them as of recently are ending up on Steam, and they're jumping to the top of the sales list. And Microsoft, while they are very friendly with Steam, they also really want their store to be a little bit more populated and have it an option. And so how can they do that? Well, they can deliver features and functionality, but by going to developers and saying, hey, look, we're going to take 18% less than the competition. We're only going to take a 12% cut. You get to keep 88% of the revenue instead of 70%. And so that's quite literally dollars into the pocket of game developers who sell titles on the Xbox Store, or the Microsoft Store. So that's a big deal. But there's other underlying reasons. I want to point out the August 1st date. I think that is key because Microsoft could flip this switch probably tomorrow if they really wanted to. But remember it was like a week or two ago, we were talking about how Microsoft is getting ready to overhaul the Microsoft Store and allow pretty much any type of application in, allowing developers to have their own CDN, which means their own content delivery network, manage their own updates. I believe that these two things are very closely tied, and that is why Microsoft is waiting until August 1st. Yes, there might be some policy things that need to be updated to make it all happen, but I believe that these two might be tied together, that Microsoft is going to make the Microsoft Store a more lucrative place to bring your app because it's no longer confined to many of the restrictions that are there today. So they'll get more developers in there, they'll have better revenue streams, and they'll make more money by going to the Microsoft Store. So they're tying all this together, and I think that's why it's got to wait until August 1st for that to start rolling out and to become an actual viable, like the mechanics of getting content into that store. It's a pretty big deal. Also, don't sleep on the fact that Microsoft has Game Pass on the PC. That's another, tentacle of that Game Pass subscription. And so by Microsoft getting more titles into Game Pass or getting it into the store, it likely increases the idea of getting them into Game Pass as well. We've heard rumors about Game Pass titles and functionality coming to Steam. I don't know if that is actually going to be happening. I haven't heard anything explicitly saying that, but it's much easier when a title is already into Microsoft's Store ecosystem to bring those titles into Game Pass, specifically obviously for Game Pass for the PC. So keep all that in mind. There's a bunch of things that are happening, and Microsoft hasn't really explained how they overlap, but I think we're starting to see that connective tissue of opening up the store, making Game Pass on PC a better value, and then driving more people into that subscription. Microsoft just reported incredible earnings yesterday, and the Xbox org hardware revenue is up 232%, about $3.5 billion in revenue for the gaming org inside of Microsoft. And so they've got a lot of momentum right now happening. And I think that this is the next sort of investment area. Microsoft is obviously known for their console gaming. The Xbox brand has, I would say, grown up under Phil Spencer, right? They were not a small player, but they had their market. And now that Phil Spencer has turned the ship in the direction that he believes that it should be rightfully headed, and I think most people agree that the Game Pass model is the correct route, we've seen them make heavy investments for the console. The PC, while it does exist and you get things like EA Play and the like, it's not been, it just from an outsider's perspective, it doesn't feel like the efforts on the Game Pass side for the PC specifically have been as good as the console side. I think we're going to start to see that shift here with this change starting August 1st. And so this will, again, widen that door to more people who might want to join the Game Pass subscription, which is what Microsoft's ultimate end goal is. Hardware is a means to Game Pass. The PC is a means to getting more people into that Game Pass funnel, which is critical to the long-term health of Xbox. That is the future. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but people have to understand that Microsoft will do what they need to do to get more people into Game Pass. Does that mean building hardware? Is that going to get more people in the Game Pass? If that answer is yes, then Microsoft will continue to go down that route. On the PC side, if they open up the store, does it make it easier to get games into Game Pass for PC, ultimately meaning more people into that subscription? If that answer is yes, then Microsoft is going to go down that route. Now, you could very easily make that argument for Steam titles. We don't quite know yet. Obviously, they have the deal with EA, and if you use the EA launcher, you can now get in Game Pass games through there. And so it's interesting. It's interesting to see that Microsoft is now not deliberately turning their attention to the PC, because I think they've had it there for a while, but now they're making it more explicitly clear that PC gaming changes are coming. We just have to wait until August 1st to find out how and if this is going to move the needle for Game Pass on PC. So if you want to keep it I was going to do a nice little transition there, but I flubbed my tongue. But if you want to keep it locked here so you can learn more as Microsoft makes these moves, make sure to keep it subscribed on this channel, because the only BS here is me.